On the albums My Krazy Life and Good Kid, M.A.A.d City, it almost sounds like Kendrick Lamar and YG are in the same friend group, doing the same activities, but describing them differently. For example, on Meet the YG describes the house slick they're participating in as this exciting, adrenaline-fueled adventure that he wants to master and get better at.
Make sure nobody's home. They gone. Okay, it's on.
Meanwhile, Kendrick sounds like a nervous wreck, afraid of having to explain to his mom what happened.
My mama called.
Hello? What you doing?
Kicking it. I should have told her I'm probably about to catch my first offense.
But more on that later. Imagine this: two kids from the same city, same streets, but completely different lifestyles. One kid, good kid with a good head on his shoulders, trying to better himself and avoid the craziness of his city. The other is a self-admitted gang member and thief who thoroughly enjoys the chaos in his city. These kids are in the same city. They potentially even live on the same block, but they experience Compton in very different ways. On one side, we've got Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, M.A.A.d City, a tale of hope and desperation in Compton. A short film, if you will. On the other hand, we got YG's My Krazy Life, a tale of degeneracy.
When you see us shining, because we steady grinding.
Thriving in the chaos within Compton. Both of these albums are set in Compton, and they were both released in the early 2010s, but they tell two different stories about two kids from the same city. Personally, I've always felt these two albums kind of lived in the same universe. They give two different perspectives of some of the same events happening in Compton. And they're very similar in their transitions and the skits and even some of the topics they talk about, but they take two totally different perspectives from two different people within that same city. I find these albums so similar in some ways that I sometimes call YG's My Krazy Life Bad Kid, Bad City, like as a parallel to Good Kid, M.A.A.d City, because that's essentially what it is. YG is a bad kid enjoying his chaos in the city and actively adding to that chaos. Hey y'all, I am a one-man show. I record, edit the video myself, create the thumbnail, everything, so hitting like and subscribe does help a bunch. Thanks so much. Back to the video. Now, I never thought YG had the ability to do this, like create a conceptual album like this, where he's telling stories and being vulnerable. I never expected this coming from YG. When the album came out, I was very pleasantly surprised. I mean, YG had hits before, Tooted and Booted, and some local songs in California. And he even had some good mixtapes. But I never thought I'd hear a conceptual, cohesive storytelling album from him. And I was very pleasantly surprised. And I hope to be surprised in the same way for some of those features on Kendrick Lamar's GNX album. But based on the music they've been releasing lately, it's not looking too good. But anyway, different story, different video. YG's My Krazy Life starts with the mama intro, where we hear YG's mom yelling at him from her doorstep.
Jackson, I hope you ain't outside hanging with them gangbangers.
Now you contrast this with how Kendrick's mom speaks to him on Good Kid, M.A.A.d City.
And that's the best way to give back to your city. And I love you, Kendrick.
You can see some of the similarities, but also it's very different. The next track, BPT, which is short for Bompton, YG firmly asserts his gang affiliation.
400 spokes straight.
There's no mistaking it. YG in this song describes chaos in the city, and Kendrick Lamar is even shouted out on this song.
I know guys who see the block down from the west.
You contrast this with Good Kid, M.A.A.d City, where Kendrick is basically describing how he doesn't want to gangbang. And even on Kendrick's earlier albums, he's describing how like the gangbanging side of where he lives is kind of a nuisance because he always finding himself in situations where he's guilty by association.
Guilty by association, story of my life.
Like someone's coming at him for something that someone else did, but he's responsible for it because he lives on this block.
Trust me, these niggas rush me for something my cousin probably did.
So Kendrick is pretty much describing how he just basically wants to be left alone. Meanwhile, YG is fully entrenched in the nonsense. He's describing in explicit detail exactly how he got put on his gang.
To the chin, bop, one to the chest.
So again, Kendrick seems to find these extra activities within Compton a nuisance. Meanwhile, YG seems very excited by them. Now, at this point in the album, YG has already built the visual for us. The streets are rough, and he's a big part of why they're rough. Unlike Kendrick on Good Kid, M.A.A.d City, where Kendrick rejects the violence and tries to understand why it's happening and understand the people behind the violence, trying to humanize them. YG's not having any of that. YG enjoys it. The album cuts straight to the song, I Just Wanna Party, where he adds to the BS. He invites Schoolboy Q and J-Rock to gangbang even more on the song. On I Just Wanna Party, listen to how YG talks about the girls he's messing with. And now compare that to Kendrick Lamar on Good Kid, M.A.A.d City with Shireen.
I'm thinking about that sex, thinking about her thighs, or maybe kissing on her neck, or maybe what position's next.
Good Kid, M.A.A.d City, the whole album kind of revolves around Shireen. Kendrick seems infatuated with her, dare I say, in love. And you compare that to what YG is saying. Yeah, I'm messing with Keisha, Taisha, Wanisha.
Back on that bullshit. If she fucking in that's bullshit.
All these different girls. Meanwhile, you have Kendrick. He's infatuated with one girl. Like, they could not be more similar, but also more different. Now, it's clear by now that YG enjoys this chaotic side of his city. YG doesn't seem to view the dysfunction that comes with gangbanging in Compton as a negative. It's quite the opposite. He seems to find it quite fun. The album transitions into the single Bick and Back Being Bull, which is produced by DJ Mustard. Now, obviously, Mustard and YG, they came up together. It should be noted that the first few songs on My Krazy Life are kind of front-loaded with party singles, which within the context of the story on My Krazy Life, it kind of gives the feeling that YG seems to thoroughly be enjoying his time as a gang member. He's like thriving in the dysfunction of Compton. The very first voice we hear on My Krazy Life is YG's mom.
I hope you ain't outside hanging with them gangbangers.
And then the very first song YG gives us is BPT, which firmly asserts his gang affiliation. On I Just Wanna Party, he asserts it again. And then the rest is just straight party songs. So yeah, it gives this feeling that he doesn't view the dysfunction as a bad thing at all. He likes it. It's fun to him. Contrast that with Good Kid, M.A.A.d City, where Kendrick seems to be conflicted about Compton. Like, sometimes he's having fun with his friends, similar to YG, and then sometimes he's praising the city, very proud of where he's from. But other times there's like sorrow about loss, and he's like conflicted about even some of the people he's around, who he's dealing with, the impressions they're having on him. Like, YG and Kendrick are receiving the same city, but they're receiving it two totally different ways. YG doesn't really seem to care about his actions as a gang member and a thief, how they affect the city. He's just living in the moment. And at the end of Bick and Back Being Bull, there's a strong parallel to Good Kid, M.A.A.d City.
Meanwhile,
man, lights off around this motherfucker too.
These little transitions and skits, which we'll talk about in a moment, this is a very strong parallel. This is something that Good Kid, M.A.A.d City is known for. These little voicemails, these little skits at the end of songs to connect the larger story.
What's that Jeezy song say, nigga? Last time I checked, I was the man on these streets, man.
So now if we continue my assumption that these albums kind of exist in the same universe, then we have to assume that YG is one of the guys who sung along to the Jeezy lyrics.
Last time I checked, I was the man on these streets.
Last time I checked, I was the man on these streets.
As Kendrick stood by. And coincidentally, My Krazy Life came out on Jeezy's label, CTE. I just find it very interesting. Then we have Meet the Flockers. This is the climax of the album. This is a lot of people's favorite song on this album. It's a song about a home invasion, a robbery, which is pretty disgusting. A home invasion is truly a bottom of the barrel act reserved for the lowest of the low. Now, Meet the Flockers mirrors The Art of Peer Pressure on Good Kid, M.A.A.d City. The Art of Peer Pressure, Kendrick raps about how his behavior always seems to worsen whenever he hangs out with his friends.
Really, I'm a peacemaker, but I'm with the homies right now. And mama used to say,
which ultimately leads him to participate in a home invasion. Now, under my same universe assumption that we've been working with the whole time, with the whole video, this is one of the only, if not the only song on Good Kid, M.A.A.d City where Kendrick blatantly displays dysfunctional behavior and lack of respect for others. And he said it's because of the peer pressure that he's experiencing with his friends. Meet the Flockers and Art of Peer Pressure are so similar that you can even layer parts of these two different songs together and make one complete story.
pull in front of the house that we've been camping out for like 2 months.
You pull up at the spot, park, watch, ring the doorbell and knock.
I hit the back window in search of any Nintendo DVDs, plasma screen TVs in the trunk.
Motherfuck that plasma, and fuck that laptop. Go and get that jury box.
They are very similar. In both of these songs, YG and Kendrick both go in a group to hit a lick on the house. It sounds like they are each in that group. Like if there's a team of 4 or 5 guys, YG is one of the guys and Kendrick is one of the guys. I think it's really cool. So on Art of Peer Pressure, when Kendrick is saying me and the homies,
One lucky night with the homies.
to me, YG is one of those homies Kendrick is rapping about. I mean, even the choice of beats between these two songs tells a whole story. Just the choice of beats alone. Meet the Flockers is this laid back, playful beat, which kind of reflects YG's dismissive opinion about this whole robbery event. It's like he couldn't care less. Like it's not really a big deal to him. Doesn't really care about the implications of it. Meanwhile, the Art of Peer Pressure is like, it sounds like a nervous, fast heartbeat, very hectic.
They made a right, they made a left, they made a right, then another right.
Which reflects Kendrick's anxiety in participating in this, knowing he shouldn't even be there. And as I mentioned earlier, I can't speak on My Krazy Life without mentioning the album's transitions and skits. Now, this is something that doesn't really happen on YG's projects before or after My Krazy Life. Using the skits as transitions at the end of songs to connect the story. Like this is a staple on Good Kid, M.A.A.d City. A lot of other albums tried to do this. Tory Lanez's I Told You, for example. But this is done all throughout My Krazy Life, and I enjoy it. The skit transitions, like stylistically, are so similar, it will make you believe that some of the same people that were involved on producing Good Kid, M.A.A.d City also helped out on My Krazy Life. Another similarity these albums have is they both feature Drake. Both Kendrick and YG recruited Drake for these West Coast storytelling albums, their debut albums. They both recruited Drake. And in my opinion, call me biased, but these songs in general don't really fit conceptually on either of these albums. I mean, even Poetic Justice, it's a good song, but in the grand story of Good Kid, M.A.A.d City, it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't fit within that story. Kendrick and the producers, they put the track in the album, they sequenced it, they tried to build around it, but it does stand out in terms of the story. It stands out. But having Drake as a feature in the 2010s was a flex, and it was a sure way to sell your album. It was a sure way to get a hit record. So here he is. There he is. Drake is on both of these debut West Coast albums. That's that. And Kendrick himself even makes an appearance on My Krazy Life on track number 11, which is titled Really Beat.
And I really been drinking, what the fuck I really been smoking, what the fuck I'm the sober one.
I love that Kendrick motivates YG to write a topical, introspective, vulnerable verse.
I stay protected cause my homie just took one to the lung.
Rather than just random freestyling. Like Kendrick's presence brings the best out of YG to where it sounds like YG actually sat down and wrote something and cared for it rather than just randomly freestyling whatever comes to mind. We get a rare, introspective, vulnerable YG verse thanks to Kendrick's influence and presence. And conceptually, the song kind of reminds me a little bit of You, just in terms of the subject matter, where Kendrick and YG, they're both reminiscing on things that happened to them, happened to others, even at times blaming themselves for things that happened.
I got a bad call, they kill braids, they kill chat, my pick on me, puppy eyes on my face, bro.
It's very vulnerable, especially for a YG song. He really doesn't get like this on songs, so you know it's Kendrick's presence that made him do this, which is great. And My Krazy Life ends with Sorry Mama outro, where YG is apologizing to his mom for his bad behaviors.
I know I lied a lot. I know I ain't slick.
Kind of resembles Dear Mama in some ways, but in the song, YG mentions that his mother is vision impaired. I think he said she has one eye.
You do a lot to be blind out of one eye.
So her vision is impaired, but yet he still was stealing from her, stealing out of her purse.
Your last dollars, yeah, that was me who stole them out your purse.
Things like that. I mean, if it's one thing that you'll take away from My Krazy Life, it's that YG likes to steal from others. Like, that's like the hugest takeaway here. And then you compare this to Good Kid, M.A.A.d City. Kendrick doesn't really seem to have any beef with his parents. I mean, it seems like on Good Kid, M.A.A.d City, Kendrick's biggest issue with his parents is his dad wondering where his dominoes are.
Gang, where my motherfucking dominoes at? It's the second time I asked you to bring my fucking dominoes.
My Krazy Life, Good Kid, M.A.A.d City. I've always felt like Good Kid, M.A.A.d City played a huge influence on My Krazy Life, the album. Now I'm taking my hot take, I'm advancing it. I think these albums exist in the same universe. I think they're talking about two different guys in the same friend group, two different guys on the same block. It's so great to just have two different perspectives of Compton. And then when you listen to My Krazy Life's transitions and the skits and how the influence from Good Kid, M.A.A.d City inspired YG to make this connected album. It's unlike any of YG's other albums. Still Brazy is a great album, but it's not like My Krazy Life, to where it's very tightly knit, tightly wrapped. You can tell they took time on it, and that's a great influence to have. So all these similarities, this is why I call YG's My Krazy Life. I also call it Bad Kid, Bad City to mirror Good Kid, Mad City. Because Good Kid, Mad City is really Kendrick sitting there kind of watching this city around him and how it's influencing him. And he really kind of doesn't want to be involved in it. And when he does find himself involved in some of the shenanigans in the city, he feels guilt for it. Meanwhile, Bad Kid, Bad City, YG does not feel guilt. As a matter of fact, he's having fun. He'll steal from you, he'll steal from her, he'll do this, he'll do that. Like, it's all fun to him. It doesn't even matter. So anyways, 2 great albums. And this is a time in West Coast hip hop, which was so rich. Like, we had so many great artists coming out. Both of these are debut albums. This is just 2 guys, Kendrick and YG. Then you add in the Nipseys, you add in the Dob Kennedys, Tyler, the Creators. We had so many great artists coming out at the time, which is something we don't have now. And for YG to make a conceptual album like this, which is more of a backpack thing. So as a street rapper, as a gangster rapper, to come out and really just tap into that, yo, I'm about to make a great album type, I love that. I'm all for taking the music more seriously. And I'm glad Kendrick brought that out of YG. And hopefully we hear Kendrick bring that out of some of the guys who were featured on the GNX album, because you already know how I feel about those features. I think this My Krazy Life, I don't think it's a total hip hop classic, but it's definitely a West Coast classic. This is a great album, man. So anyways, what do y'all think? My Krazy Life is a classic. Have y'all heard this album? You need to go listen. If you like Good Kid, Mad City, when you listen to My Krazy Life for the first time, you're for sure gonna draw the parallels to Good Kid, Mad City. It's just 2 different opposite perspectives of the same city and very similar events. So anyways, that's all I got for today. Be sure to subscribe if you have not already. Top5rapwebsite.com. Peace.